Hello and welcome to Sci-Fi Christian's Game of Thrones Reviews, Season 4, Episode 7, Mockingbird, but who cares about that? I think the real news here is that for the first time in all the years we've been doing these reviews, I am completely abandoned. No, I'm just kidding. Ben came down with the flu today, and Emily decided to stay home with him, of course, take care of him, instead of coming here and doing Game of Thrones reviews. So missing you guys tonight, Ben and Emily, but maybe we'll do kind of a follow-up video on this episode with them once they get a chance to see it, because we do have 2 weeks off, just so everybody's clear. Next weekend, Memorial Day weekend, no new Game of Thrones. So your next new Game of Thrones, June 1st, I think, whatever that first Sunday is in June 1st, 2nd, something like that. And then, hopefully by then, Ben will be feeling better, and the whole gang will be back. But for tonight, you just got me. Probably be a bit shorter episode tonight, both because I don't have anybody to talk to, and also because I didn't take any notes during the episode, because I just didn't feel like it. You know, it's hard to be motivated when you're just by yourself and everyone abandons you. But anyway, I'm not smoking anything tonight, as you probably already noticed, because it's tough to, pipes, if you're not a pipe smoker, here's the deal with smoking pipes, everyone, is that when you're smoking a pipe, it's a lot of fun, but you also wind up relighting your pipe a whole bunch. And so that's okay, that just kind of goes with the territory. But then when you're talking and stuff, it just goes out constantly. Like, I tried to smoke a pipe once during a solo book review for the Sci-Fi Christian year and a half ago, something like that. It just wasn't worth the effort. So no pipe tonight. It only works when, you have enough other people talking that you can actually keep your pipe going. But I am drinking a beer. I'm drinking my own beer tonight. This is what I call Inkling ESB. So ESB, English Standard Bitter, Standard English Ale. For those of you not familiar with it, I kind of brewed this in the traditional style of an ESB, but then during fermentation I added honey and then aged it with oak spirals, and it is absolutely incredible. I mean, this is just an out-of-this-world beer. The smell, the taste, you get both that oak honey in there, just an incredible combination. And if you're sitting back at home thinking, man, I wish I could brew beer, well, you can. In fact, go check out the Bono Beer Show. It's my new YouTube show. And the next 2 weeks, next 2 episodes, are going to be about an introduction to home brewing. Now, it's not going to get you to the point where you can design your recipes and all that right away, but it's going to get you started on that road. I mean, I've been home brewing for almost a year and a half, and I'm just getting to the point where I'm doing original recipes that, in my opinion, are as good as anything you can find at the store. Okay, so you got a year and a half before you can get to that point. But even at the very beginning, you're going to be making good beer. So check out the Bono Beer Show for some homebrewing tips the next couple weeks, and also just for some good beer talk. Did one on what craft beer can teach us about morality and ethics and Catholic social teaching and all this good stuff. Things you'd never think to tie together, but I think about them because I do the Bono Beer Show for you. Alright, that's enough of that infomercial. Let's get to the episode itself. Mockingbird, which of course, for those who are keeping score at home, the house sigil of Littlefinger. But we actually don't see him till the very end of the episode. We'll get there. Probably the most dramatic part of the episode. This was a good episode. I think people will be down on it, maybe, because it is a lot of setup, but, I don't, okay, you don't need every episode to be just balls to the walls action and drama and everything. If you want that, you're going to the wrong show. I mean, so much of the thrill of Game of Thrones is in the maneuvering of the pieces and everything. So, to me, these are the episodes you live for if you're a Game of Thrones fan, is that every piece is getting into place for that next great moment. But it's so interesting watching them get there and everything. So maybe let's talk about Tyrion, because we started with him. And he kind of popped up a few different places in the episode. And this is really just kind of the culmination of the tragedy of Tyrion Lannister. His brother can't fight for him. Bronn won't fight for him. He can't fight for himself. He's desperate for a champion. And yeah, we get the glimmer of hope at the end where Oberyn Martell shows up and is the champion. But man, it's just the icing on the cake for everything that he's been going through this season. And really almost since last season when he's displaced as the Hand of the King after Tywin shows up at the Battle of Blackwater. Right, so Tyrion's in a bad place. And man, again, you gotta... I think Peter Dinklage has already won an Emmy or two for this show. But between last week's trial scene and then the scene of him and Oberyn in the cell this week, he better earn another one or win another one, because, oh man, Peter Dinklage is just knocking it out of the park on a weekly basis. That scene where Oberyn is describing to him when he came to Casterly Rock and saw him as a baby and what Cersei was doing and all of that, and you see Tyrion's reaction to that is just really moving stuff, really powerful acting. So hats off again to Peter Dinklage. I mean, that could almost be the topic every week on this show, but it's hard to not talk about it when he's that good, that consistently. And, but more to the plot point, yes, we do have the champion. So for all of you who are guessing that Jaime was going to be the champion, that got snuffed out pretty early in the episode. But if you were still thinking that maybe Jaime would come around by the end, you were wrong. It's Oberyn, who is finally having a chance to kill Gregor Clegane and piss off Cersei. Remember, for those of you who maybe aren't quite keeping up with everything, which is okay, I mean, it's a complex show, so don't worry about it if you're not. But Oberyn's sister was raped and murdered by the Mountain, Gregor Clegane. Okay, so that's his motive for doing this, is that now he has this chance to kill, or at least attempt to kill, Gregor. And we'll see what happens with that in 2 weeks. Just a sidebar, I had mentioned last time that if you wanted to know who the two champions were going to be, you could look at future episode titles. Well, that's because the next episode in the season is called The Viper versus the Mountain, or The Viper and the Mountain, or something like that. So you have the Mountain, Gregor Clegane, versus the Red Viper, Oberyn Martell. So that was, if any of you tried to do a little homework on there, or were avoiding that spoiler or whatever, that's what I was alluding to. And now it's all out in the open, so it's all good. Gregor Clegane, you know, gosh, this kind of annoys me, because this is the third time he's been recast, or second time, third actor to play him, second recast, I guess is what it would be. And this guy seems like he's fine, but it's really unfortunate because it seems like Gregor needed to be a character who we saw a little bit more over the last few seasons, and slowly built up this sadistic legend of him. I mean, they did a good job playing makeup today with that, especially in the whole conversation between Arya and the Hound. But again, that conversation almost benefited the Hound's character more than it does Gregor. I mean, Gregor is an absolute monster. Absolute sadistic monster. Of all the evil people on this show, I wouldn't put him at the top of the list, but he's up there. The guy is pure evil. And we started off really well in season 1 with him, where, if you'll recall, he's the one who decapitates the horse's head, and then he and the Hound go at it at the jousting scene in one of the first few episodes. That's like episode 3, 4, something like that. So we got off well with, oh, well, this guy's not only huge and freakish strong, he just decapitated a horse with one blow, but there's something not quite right up here. Where I think they really went wrong with this character is that actor couldn't continue in the role. I don't remember what happened, if it was scheduling stuff or whatever. Fine. So they recast him in season 2, and we saw Gregor Clegane a few times in season 2. And the guy they cast just wasn't the Mountain. You know, he was tall, but he wasn't huge, and we didn't see Gregor do anything especially sadistic. I mean, on the one hand, I can't remember how explicit this was in the show, but the whole scenes that are going on where Arya and the people she's with, they're being tortured or whatever, one by one. And Gregor's behind that, but it's just, we don't see him. He's not built up enough. And so it felt like the scene we had with Gregor, they were trying to play catch up really, really fast, and they were laying it on really thick. It's like, could we have tilted the camera up just a little bit more to really drive home the point that this is a very big guy, and we just see him killing random people as his warm-up for the day? I don't know. I can't fault the people who are writing this episode or shooting the episode for doing what they did, because that's the hand they've been dealt. It's really more criticism of the past few seasons than it is of today's episode. But man, was it laid on thick. So, if you haven't read the books, just know that regardless of how the show has maybe mishandled that character, this guy is very, very bad news. Okay? Let's just all be on the same page there, and just ignore the show's kind of fumbling attempts to establish that. One of the few poorly done things in poorly done adaptations in this show. And considering all the things we've gotten right, that's not a huge deal. If they got to drop the ball on something, they got to drop the ball on something. It just happens to be Gregor Clegane. Alright, so then we move on to, let's see, what should we talk about next? Let's talk about Danny a little bit. So the whole thing of how should Danny treat the people that she has this cat, or that she's taken over, the masters and everything. It's kind of an interesting debate. I don't remember how much of that is in the books. I don't think it was quite this much. I don't really mind it, I guess, because you do kind of have to establish what does Danny mean when she's trying to rule. And so we need to see character growth in her ability to rule, and that is maybe an area where the books stumble a little bit around book 5, so I don't mind that we have that plot in there. Hopefully something substantive comes of it. We see her and Dario getting on, which I guess I shouldn't say we see, it's certainly implied. It's possible nothing happened, I suppose. I don't know that that's what we're supposed to take away. It's certainly not what Jorah Mormont takes away from running into Dario. That definitely went too quick. There's a lot more sexual tension between the two in the books before they, get down to it, the nasty. So it's fine. I guess I'm not crazy about this part of Danny's story. I've probably picked up on the last few weeks. But we'll just get through it. We'll all soldier on together, everyone. It's where we're gonna be in that phase of our story for a little bit. And it is what it is. So, I don't know. It's fine. Just keep on chugging away in Marine. Alright. So I want to talk about Arya and the Hound. I want to talk about Littlefinger. I guess we got to talk about the wall and then the weird scene on Dragonstone. Let's get the weird scene on Dragonstone out of the way. What a dumb scene. I mean, just stupid across the board. It's like, okay, what was the point of that scene? Was it just to give the actors a little screen time? What's the deal with, we have to take Shireen or whatever the hell the daughter's name is. See, I've read these books so many times, I can't even keep all the names straight. We gotta take her along on the boat, when we go, and then Mrs. Stannis, again, don't remember her name, which maybe is telling us something about just how important or not these characters are. But Mrs. Stannis is all acting kind of weird, whereas she's supposed to be the one who's like really firm, yeah, Lord of Light and everything. And to top it all off, I mean, and I don't get down on the show like some people do about gratuitous nudity or whatever, but it's like, really? Really? I mean, it's so obvious sometimes when they're just throwing it in to throw it in that scene. It was just, across the board, just a bad scene in an otherwise very good episode. I don't see the point of it. Maybe they'll do something with it. Not crazy about that scene right now. We'll see if they do anything with it by the end of the season. I kind of think not, because we've only got 3 episodes left and there's a lot of stuff to get to in these last 3. So I'm not holding my breath for that one to go anywhere. I think we just ignore it and move on. Okay? Okay. Alright, the wall. Again, nothing too exciting. Jon is, he knows what's going down. Oh, we got big-ass giants coming. We don't believe you. So, in case the point wasn't driven home by now, Jon knows what's happening, and the people in charge at at Castle Black are not listening to him. Really, this is exactly where we were in this plot line before we galloped up to Craster's Keep. So, Craster's Keep storyline, whatever you thought of it, all it really accomplished was killing time. We're right back where we were about 4 or 5 episodes ago, or whenever it was that John was about to go off to Craster's Keep. Still no wildling sighting, either north of the wall or south of the wall. So again, I'm just curious what they're doing with this. I mean, it seems... Again, they set up the whole, these Magnar Then guys are going to go cannibalize their way all the way through the north, on their way to presumably wherever they're going. I won't say, in case the show hasn't said. And they're just not doing anything with it. And then, you know, they cast Syrian Hands as Mance Rayder, and we saw him for, one scene last year. I mean, that guy is just a phenomenal actor, as anybody who ever watched Rome knows, and we're just not doing anything with him. Hopefully he'll show up here by the end of the season. I'm pretty confident he will, but still, it's like, I just feel like they... Okay, I'm just going to go out on a limb here. I'm going to take the firm stand. The show has not done well with John's storyline and anything north of Winterfell this season. They have not done well with that material. Period. Not to say everything across the board has been bad, but pretty close. Pretty close. Bad or unnecessary. I'll exclude Bran from that. I think some of the Bran stuff has been fine, but, you know, again, there's been so little, and that's probably going to continue. So, we're right back where we were 4 or 5 episodes ago. It was a nice little diversion to Craster's Keep. Now let's move on to where the plot was actually going all along. We just couldn't take it there yet because we had too many episodes to go in the season. Alright. Arya, Hound, and then Littlefinger. Just more great stuff from Arya and the Hound. I mean, you gotta love every scene they're in. It was kind of nice that they... Oh, speaking of Arya, well, I'll get back there in a second. Gotta mention Hot Pie making his reoccurrence. That was kind of fun. I don't think there's anything really more I want to say about that, except that Brienne and Pod are galloping around. They meet Hot Pie. Kind of fun. Good old Hot Pie. Who doesn't love Hot Pie? Alright, back to Arya and the Hound. It's kind of fun that they worked in Rorge there, who Arya kills, because if you've read the books, he's a much more prominent character during Book 2, Season 2. When Jake and Hagar is in that cage, Rorge is one of the other 2 guys in the cage with him. I don't know if it's the same actor or not, but he definitely has a more prominent presence in the books than he did in the show. So it's kind of nice we worked him in there after all. And they actually did that with another character in the scene with Bronn and Tyrion. They worked in Lollies in that scene, who is the person Bronn is marrying, and she shows up every now and again in the books and really hasn't been there at all. I don't think even mentioned in the show. So they worked. It's kind of a nice little shout out to book readers that they worked in this week. Man, I loved both these scenes though with Arya and the Hound. I mean, first the whole scene when they're sitting there with the old guy, and just really powerful stuff as they're musing on life and what is nothingness and what is death, and how do we give those things meaning, you know, and just a beautiful, beautiful scene. And whoever that actor was who played that guy, I mean, he's obviously out of the show, but really did a good job. All 3 of the people in that scene just did a phenomenal job. And then the whole conversation between Arya and the Hound later on. Wow. I mean, those 2, again, talk about people who deserve any nominations. Maisie Williams, and I'm sorry I don't know the person with the name, the actor who plays the Hound, but wow, those 2 are just incredible. Both individually with their own talent, but then their chemistry together. Out of this world. Yeah, so I'm just thoroughly enjoying those scenes with them. Hopefully we get some more of them by the end of the season. Alright, finally, Littlefinger is no longer married because he's only loved one woman, and guess what? It wasn't the woman he was married to. Just great stuff. Great stuff. I wish that the actor who played Robin's voice hadn't changed because he is such a sniveling little twerp. and it takes away the effect a little bit to, you know, having to sound like Moses. But it worked. I mean, it was obvious that this is just this little shit who deserves everything that's coming to him. And, you know, seeing Sansa, the symbolism of her trying to recreate her home, even in this false way, and where she can't quite remember how things were, and she can't quite tell if it's right. Really good stuff. Yeah, and then, of course, the moon door. Who doesn't love the moon door? I will say this about that scene. Perfectly done, perfectly adapted, with one exception. In the books, there's a singer named Marillion there who originally came to the Vale with Catelyn and Tyrion, and he'd kind of stuck around or whatever. And he's in the room or something like that when Littlefinger does this. And Littlefinger pushes her out, you know, so everything goes down exactly like you saw it in the show. But he pushes her out, and then he turns and says, "Guards, arrest this singer. He just murdered my wife." And the reason why I felt like something like that needed to be in there is that, yeah, it's really dramatic the way they end it in the show, but you need to know that Littlefinger's the guy who always is going to cover his ass. He has a plan so that it's not going to be possible to pin this on him. And that's what he has in the books, and he doesn't have it in the show. So if you think about it and you realize that's missing, it weakens his character. I'm guessing most people won't, just because it's such a great scene, and we kind of already accept the fact implicitly that Littlefinger has a way out. But I do think it's oversight that we don't see his escape route, that he just has planned so brilliantly, the way he does in the books. All right. So Littlefinger continues his evil ways. We got the trial, by combat coming up. Things are coming to a head, everyone. Maybe even those wildlings will get to the wall. You never know. Dany's going to hang out in Marine. You know, well, maybe we're not excited about that part. But good stuff coming up for the rest of the season. Some stuff that, if you're a book reader, you know it's coming. If you're not a book reader, don't think you have it all figured out. There are curveballs coming that you have not foreseen and will not foresee. And don't try and guess them. Honestly, just sit back, enjoy the ride. Don't try and figure it out. Just let the story unfold, because it's going to be awesome these last few weeks. All right, everyone, again, 2 weeks to go. 2 weeks to go. Not next week, week after. First Sunday in June, be back here for the Viper and the Mountain, the Viper, whatever that episode is called. Some combination of those terms. But for now, I'm Bendy Bono, and this is the Sci-Fi Christian's Game of Thrones Reviews. Goodbye. I'm going to enjoy my beer.